Right now, in the heart of the Bronx, Vincent Rivera, a 52-year-old maintenance worker and father of three, is staring down the barrel of an eviction notice that hit his mailbox on October 10th, 2025. That's the day his landlord jacked up the rent by 28% overnight, citing market adjustments. While Vincent's wages from fixing pipes and crumbling public housing barely cover groceries, let alone the $2,800 monthly gouge for a two-bedroom that's seen better decades. According to the NYC Mayor's Office of Public Engagement, which shared Vincent's story in a desperate call for help just days before the election, he was one of over 3,500 Bronx families facing the same gut-wrenching choice: pack up or beg for emergency aid that never quite arrives. Picture it, you're him, hands shaking as you explain to your kids why dad's coming home later because overtime's the only buffer against the street. That's not some abstract statistic. That's the raw ache of a system that's forgotten what it means to live with dignity. And while Vincent was scrambling for a lifeline on that very same week in October 2025, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer was pocketing another $250,000 from the Real Estate Board of New York, according to Federal Election Commission filings released on October 18th. Yeah, you heard that right. The guy who controls the Senate calendar, who could push for rent caps or eviction moratoriums with a snap of his fingers, chose instead to host a fundraiser at a Midtown steakhouse where real estate moguls toasted to stabilized profits. OpenSecrets.org tracks it all. Schumer's hauled in over $2.1 million from real estate PACs in the 2024 to 2025 cycle alone, more than any other Democrat in Congress, two worlds colliding in one city, Vincent's on the edge of homelessness, Schumer's sipping scotch with the very landlords profiting off the pain. It's betrayal baked into the bones of this place we call home. But here's the twist that kept me up all night, fist pumping in my Queens apartment. On November 4th, 2025, just 3 weeks after Vincent's nightmare peaked, New Yorkers didn't just vote, they revolted Zohran Mamdani, that unapologetic democratic socialist from Astoria, the one who's been knocking on doors in tenant halls since he was a state assemblyman, swept the mayoral race with 50.4% of the vote. He crushed Andrew Cuomo's comeback bid as an independent and Curtis Sliwa's Republican circus, as reported live by the New York Times election desk that night. Zohran didn't win because of slick ads or donor dollars. He won because working people like Vincent showed up. 68% turnout in the Bronx alone, according to the NYC Board of Elections preliminary data. This wasn't a fluke. It was a fire bell in the night for the establishment, a signal that the 99% are done being pawns. Let me be real with you, because you and we've been through this before. Remember 2016, when the DNC rigged the primaries and left us with a candidate who couldn't spell socialism without choking? Or 2020, when Biden promised bold action on housing but delivered crumbs while evictions skyrocketed 68% post-moratorium per NYC Housing Court stats from September 2025. We've watched the party we built, through Occupy, through Bernie, through the Squad, get hollowed out by the same Wall Street whispers that keep rents exploding and wages flat. Zohran's win? It's the people saying, enough. It's proof that when we organize, when we knock on those doors in Crown Heights in East New York, we don't just survive, we seize the damn wheel. Think about it. Zohran's platform wasn't some pie-in-the-sky dream. It was rent freezes for 1 million stabilized units, public control of NYCHA to end the decay Vincent fights daily, and taxing the ultra-rich to fund universal childcare so moms like his wife don't have to choose between a paycheck and a school run. And the numbers back it. Polls from Emerson College in late October showed Mamdani leading by 12 points among renters under 40, the very folks crushed by a median rent hitting $3,200 in Manhattan, as Bloomberg reported on October 25th. This is what happens when you talk straight to power, not around it. AOC was on X that election night, November 4th, tweeting, "NYC just showed the world. Progressives aren't a fringe. We're the future. Let's build." Bernie Sanders followed up on November 5th with a Vermont public radio interview, calling it the biggest rebuke to corporate Democrats since my 16 run. The Squad, Ilhan, Rashida, the whole crew, they're buzzing in group chats I can only imagine, because insiders like those in The Intercept's November 6th piece are whispering about a progressive surge that's got DNC strategists sweating. Now, you might be thinking, okay, great, a socialist mayor in the biggest city in America, but is this isolated? Hell no. That same election day, November 4th, 2025, Katie Wilson, another Democratic socialist firebrand, clinched Seattle's mayoral race by 8 points, vowing to slash police budgets and build 50,000 affordable units, as Ballotpedia confirmed in their November 14th wrap-up in Spokane. Progressives flipped the city council to a 6-1 majority, pushing for wage theft crackdowns amid a 15% rent hike crisis, per the Washington State Standard on November 14th, and don't sleep on the governors. Democrats held New Jersey with Mickey Sherrill on a platform echoing Zohran's Housing Justice First, and flipped Virginia blue with Abigail Spanberger, who campaigned on ending the donor class stranglehold, as NPR detailed in their November 5th takeaways. These aren't centrist band-aids. These are wins forged in the tenant unions and labor halls, where folks like Vincent aren't footnotes, they're the authors. But here's where it gets juicy, where the panic sets in for the old guard. Just 72 hours after the polls closed, on November 7th, 2025, internal DNC memos leaked to Politico. Yeah, those ones headlined "Democrats Face a Fork in the Road After 2025 Wins," revealed the establishment fracturing like never before. Sources close to the caucus, anonymous but verified by multiple outlets including Yahoo News on November 16th, admitted that private polling showed progressive challengers polling 15 points ahead of corporate-backed incumbents in key 2026 primaries. Schumer's name dropped like a hot coal. His fundraising machine, which raked in $45 million last cycle per FEC data, sputtered to a trickle in Q3 2025, as the New York Post reported on October 25th, down 40% from 2024, thanks to donors like IPAC and Big Tech fleeing to safer bets. Pelosi? Her old war room in San Francisco is a ghost town. Insiders told The Hill on November 10th that her super PAC endorsements tanked in blue districts where squad-backed candidates surged. Let that sink in. The leaks aren't just emails. They're autopsy reports on a dying machine. One memo sourced to a DNC data director warned, voter rejection of establishment picks in NYC, and Seattle signals a 25% enthusiasm gap for bold policies on wages and housing. That's code for, the people are waking up and your donor feasts are over. Zohran himself addressed it in a WNYC interview on November 12th, saying, "This isn't about one win. It's about wresting power from the puppets Wall Street's panicking because they see the tide turning." And he's right. Open Secrets shows real estate PACs dumped $1.2 million into anti-Mamdani ads in the final week, only to watch their money burn as turnout in low-income precincts hit 75%. We've been here before, you and I, betrayed by the suits who promise change, then cash the checks. But this time, the momentum's ours. Vincent Rivera got a stay on his eviction through a tenant hotline Zohran's team scaled up pre-election, as the mayor's office confirmed on November 15th. It's small, but it's real. And across the country, from Seattle's rainy streets to Virginia's suburbs, workers are feeling it too. That spark of hope amid the outrage. Now here's what they tried to bury. The story the cable news glossed over in their horse race recaps. How these wins exposed the DNC's rotten core, and why, if we don't push now, the midterms could lock in the betrayal all over again. The leaked memos aren't some shadowy conspiracy. They're the DNC's own confession, dropped into Politico's lap on November 7th, 2025, like a grenade in a boardroom. Picture this: DNC data analysts holed up in a nondescript DC office, crunching numbers that should have stayed buried. One email chain, sourced directly from a mid-level strategist who couldn't stomach the spin anymore, lays it bare. Progressive turnout in NYC hit 78% in renter-heavy precincts, up 22 points from 2021. If this bleeds into 2026, we're looking at a 28% primary loss rate for establishment picks in blue districts. That's not hyperbole. That's their math, verified by Politico's fact-checkers cross-referencing with NYC Board of Elections data from November 13th. And the panic? It seeps through every line. Another memo flagged Eyes Only Finance Committee warns of a donor flight risk. AIPAC pausing $5.2 million in planned contributions to swing state incumbents per the same leak because Mamdani's win signals voter tolerance for DSA-endorsed radicals. Let that sink in. The very machine that funneled $1.8 billion into Democratic coffers last cycle, according to Open Secret's October 2025 tally, is now whispering about pulling plugs. You and we've seen this movie before. The DNC as a velvet-gloved enforcer for the elite, squashing anything that smells like real change. Remember 2022, when they blackballed Summer Lee and Jamal Bowman in Pennsylvania primaries, only for Lee to win by 2,000 votes anyway? Or Cori Bush in Missouri, where corporate cash flooded in to drown her out, but she still forced the conversation on Medicare for all? Those were skirmishes. This is the establishment's Waterloo. The memos detail how Schumer's vaunted majority machine, that $45 million war chest from real estate and big tech, as FEC filings from Q3 2025 confirm, fizzled out. Fundraising dipped 37% in the final pre-election quarter, with donors like Jeff Bezos' PAC rerouting $3 million to centrist PACs instead, per a November 10th Hill report citing anonymous finance insiders Pelosi's shadow even dimmer. Her endorsements in California safe seats, once golden, flopped in 3 races where progressive challengers surged 15 points post-Mamdani, according to the leak's internal modeling. But let's zoom out, because this fracture isn't just DC drama. It's echoing in the streets where it matters. Take Seattle, November 4th, 2025. Katie Wilson, that fierce socialist organizer who's been battling Amazon's wage theft since the 19 strikes, didn't just win mayor. She demolished the field with 58% of the vote, as Ballotpedia's November 14th certification confirms. Her hook? Housing as a human right, not a hedge fund. Within 24 hours of her victory speech, delivered to a crowd of 5,000 in a Pike Place Union Hall, rain be damned, local polls from the Seattle Times showed a 19-point bump in support for taxing the rich to build 20,000 public units. That's the ripple. Wilson's win flipped 3 city council seats to progressives, gutting police overtime budgets by 12% in the first proposed cuts, per council minutes leaked to local outlets on November 15th. And Spokane? Don't sleep on that Rust Belt gem. Progressives seized a 6-1 council supermajority, vowing to claw back $15 million in wage theft from gig workers, money that's now earmarked for rent relief, as the Washington State Standard reported on November 14th, amid a 17% eviction spike in low-income zip codes. Contrast that with the power suites, where the air's thick with desperation. Schumer, that Brooklyn boy turned Wall Street whisperer, was on the Senate floor November 10th, sputtering about unity, while his real estate donors, $2.1 million in the 2024 to 2025 cycle alone, open secrets again, brace for caps on luxury builds. Insiders told The Intercept on November 12th that his war room's in chaos. Chuck's calling in favors from every blue dog dem, but the squad's not biting. AOC, she's everywhere, tweeting fire on November 6th. NYC said no to Cuomo's comeback cash grab. Now let's make it national. Rent control for the 99%. Bernie's on Vermont Public Radio the next day. Gravel voice steady. This is what happens when you listen to workers, not lobbyists. Zohran's blueprint, Medicare expansion, green jobs. It's winning because it's right. And the grassroots, they're the oxygen. In Queens, Zohran's old district office turned into a victory hub by November 8th, where tenant unions from the Bronx, folks like Vincent Rivera, whose stay of eviction calls spiked 40% post-election per the mayor's office hotline logs, poured in to map out citywide strikes against non-payment gouging. Think about your own block, you know? That neighbor scraping by on gig shifts, rent creeping up 25% since 2023, as New York City Comptroller Brad Lander's October 2025 report nails down with eviction filings up 62% borough-wide. The memos admit it. Voter rage on affordability drove 35% of the progressive surge, higher than 20 Bernie highs. That's the turning point. The Wave 2 escalation establishment Dems aren't just losing votes, they're losing the narrative. Pelosi's fundraising flops, down 42% in blue California districts, FEC November 11th data, exposed her as yesterday's news, with donors fleeing to safer Republicans like in Virginia, where Abigail Spanberger's pragmatic win masked a deeper shift. Her 12-point margin came from young voters demanding bolder housing planks, per NPR's November 5th exit polls. But here's the gut punch. Those same polls show progressive policies, universal childcare, rent freezes, polling at 62% approval nationwide, up 8 points from September, as Emerson College's post-election flash survey on November 7th confirms, the people aren't waiting for permission, they're demanding it. And the layers? Oh, they peel back ugly. Layer 1, the donor panic. AIPAC's freeze isn't abstract. It's $7.4 million withheld from 2026 races in New York and California, per the leaks, because Mamdani's Palestine solidarity stance, echoed by Ilhan Omar's November 9th the 6th thread calling for peace dividends over war profits, scared off the hawks. Big tech? Elon Musk's PAC dumped $2 million into anti-progressive ads in Seattle, only to watch Wilson win by 19 points. As Washington Post analysis on November 16th detailed, Layer 2, the institutional crumble. DNC bylaws, once a shield for incumbents, now face rewrite calls from new Vice Chair David Hogg, who on a leaked May 2025 call, reported by Politico, vowed to primary the asleep. By November 10th, that's materialized. 14 progressive challengers announced for 2026. Polling averages at plus 11 in safe seats per Real Clear Politics November 15th aggregate. Schumer's scrambling, hosting closed-door caucuses on November 13th where, sources tell The Hill, he floated compromise bills on housing that smell like landlord giveaways. Layer 3 hits closest. The human cost, the betrayal we live. Vincent's not alone. Bronx evictions hit 1,200 in October, 2025 alone. Comptroller Lander's data shows, with families like his choosing meds over meals 43% of the time, per a September Urban Justice Center survey. But the memos, they model it as a manageable volatility, code for letting the 99% bleed so the 1% thrives. That's the crisis deepening, the establishment's plan to weather the storm by starving the fire. Yet here's the turning point, the spark in the dark. Zohran's first act as mayor-elect, announced November 14th on WNYC, a task force with AOC and Rashida Tlaib to audit NYCA corruption, projecting $500 million in recovered funds for tenant repairs. It's not salvation, it's solidarity in action. Bernie called it the dawn in his November 5th op-ed for Jacobin, workers rising, elites exposed, now we build. We felt the boot before, the DNC's thumb on the scale, the whispers that socialism loses elections. But these wins, they're receipts. Seattle's council flipping to defund overtime for cops, redirecting to homeless services, up 15% efficacy in first mocks per city budget previews. Spokane's wage theft fund already dispersing $2 million to 4,000 workers by November 20th, as state reports confirm, and nationally, California's Prop 50, that redistricting coup on November 4th, 55% yes, adding 5 Dem-leaning seats, tilts the House toward progressives, with early modeling from 538 on November 12th showing a 68% chance of squad gains in 2026. The layers reveal the rot, but they also map the resistance. Grassroots turning outrage to organization, one door knock, one strike at a time. Now, as the dust settles and the midterms loom, feel that shift. It's not hope for hope's sake. It's power, hard won in our hands. The shift isn't a feeling, it's a map. And right now, that map is red hot with targets for 2026. The DNC memos themselves spell it out. 38 House seats, 12 Senate races, and 7 governor's mansions, where progressive challengers are polling within 5 points of establishment incumbents. Real Clear Politics November 15th tracker has the average at plus 4.2 for the left flank in open primaries. That's not noise. That's a wave forming, but waves break if we don't ride them. So let's talk meaning, forecast, and what you and I do before the machine recalibrates. First, the deeper meaning. These 2025 wins aren't trophies. They're proof that the betrayal playbook is cracking. For decades, the line was, you can't win on rent control, you can't win on Palestine, you can't win on taxing billionaires. Zohran just won on all three. Seattle's Katie Wilson just won on defunding the police and building public housing. Spokane's council just won on wage theft reparations. The data is merciless. Emerson College's post-election survey, November 7th to 10th, shows 71% of voters under 35 now say corporate Democrats are the bigger problem than Republicans. That's a 19-point jump since 2022. The Intercept's November 16th analysis of the DNC leaks puts it bluntly. The donor class is facing an extinction-level event in blue strongholds. Extinction, not retreat, not compromise. Extinction. Zoom in on the money. Open Secrets updated their 2025 tracker on November 14th. Progressive small donor programs, Act Blue Left Flank, raised $187 million in Q3 to Q4, up 41% from 2021 establishment super PACs, down 28%. That's not a blip, that's a bloodletting. AIPAC's freeze is now public. $12.4 million withheld from 2026 races, per their own board minutes leaked to Jewish Currents on November 18th. Big Tech, Google, and Amazon PACs paused $8.1 million in Democratic contributions, citing uncertainty over regulatory environment, code for we're scared of antitrust. Meanwhile, DSA chapters nationwide report membership up 38% since November 4th, highest since 2020. The people are funding the fight with $27 averages, not $27,000 checks. Now the forecast. If we hold the line, here's what 2026 looks like. House. 538's November 20 model gives progressives a 64% chance of netting 12 seats, enough to force a speaker vote where AOC or Bowman could extract Medicare for all pilots and national rent cap Senate. Schumer's seat isn't up, but his grip is. Insiders told Politico on November 19th that he's floating retirement to avoid a primary bloodbath. If he goes, a squad-backed replacement flips the caucus left. Governors. Add Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. 3 states where progressive lieutenants are polling neck and neck with centrist Dems win too, and you control the redistricting pen for 2030. Lose momentum, and the DNC reboots with pragmatic bailouts, means-tested crumbs, police surges, donor amnesty. That's the fork in the road the memos warned about. But here's the part they can't model. Vincent Rivera isn't waiting. On November 20th, he joined 2,000 tenants in a Bronx rent strike launch, largest since the 1970s. Per Right to the City Alliance, Zohran was there, bullhorn in hand, live streamed on X to 1.2 million views in 48 hours. AOC flew in for Seattle's victory lap on November 17th, rallying 8,000 at a Union Hall to demand national tenant protections. Bernie's touring the Rust Belt starting December 1st. First stop, Youngstown, Ohio, where steelworkers just flipped a city council seat on a Public Bank Now platform. These aren't photo ops, they're ignition points. So what's the takeaway? 3 moves right now. Primary the traitors. Target list drops December 15th. 38 incumbents who took real estate cash and voted against eviction moratoriums. DSA's already raised $4.2 million for challengers. Chip in $27. That's one less landlord bribe. Build the strike muscle. Tenant unions in 14 cities launch coordinated rent strikes January 1st. NYC's aiming for 50,000 units. Join yours or start one. Zohran's office just published a strike toolkit. Download it, print it, door knock your building. Force the national fight. Petition drops December 5th. No budget without rent caps. 100,000 signatures triggers a House discharge petition. AOC's office confirmed the math on November 21st. Sign it. Share it. Flood your rep's inbox. This isn't hope porn. It's leverage. The establishment is wounded. Donors fleeing. Polls collapsing. Memos screaming. They'll try to wait us out. Offer half measures. Blame division. Don't buy it. Vincent's kids still need a home. Your rent is still due. The planet is still burning. The fight isn't won in a news cycle. It's won in the streets, the primaries, the strike lines. Zohran said it best on election night, November 4th, voice cracking under the Queen's lights. This city didn't just elect a mayor. It elected a movement. And movements don't ask permission. They take power. He's right. The machine is panicking because for the first time in a generation, the 99% aren't asking, we're demanding. We're building. We're winning. So here's the call. Get in the room where it happens. Find your local DSA, your tenant union, your strike captain, knock the doors. Raise the hell, because the midterms aren't coming, they're here. And the only question left is whose side you're on when the next eviction notice drops. The people are rising. The elites are crumbling. And you right now are the difference between a moment and a revolution. Let's go.